God tricked me into ministry. Like that's honestly
took you out the
what.
studio.
Yeah, I was doing music production full time.
What?
I was traveling with Wayman Tisdale, and I was doing things with
What?
HBO and Jill Scott and Universal and all this other stuff.
What?
And God really literally picked me up out of that industry and said, I want you to help this church out. And literally, the building that we sit in right now, I started off as a sound man in this church. I was doing my production company, and the church that I pastor now, back then was called Greenwood Christian Center. They hired me to do all the production for a huge conference that they did. And I got in with the team and all their musicians. And long story short, they asked me afterwards, like, bro, our sound man is trash. Could you please, whenever you're in town, just come run sound?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure. I started running sound more often, and whenever I was in town, and God literally allowed my service here to turn into the catalyst to joining two churches together. So let me tell you this. My parents started a church called Spirit and Truth. And God is sneaky, man, because he knows the only way I would ever get in ministry is by helping my parents. So he felt, they felt like they were supposed to start a church, and I convinced them, like, this is the dumbest thing you could ever do. Like,
y'all
people are crazy, y'all
right.
already traveling, get that check, come home, bless the people. Like, don't do this. And my parents are people of prayer. So if they hear God, they're gonna do it. They don't, and they started a church. I didn't go for 8 months. Didn't, because they were having it on Sunday nights, and I was already helping with the sound here and doing music. So I was like, yeah. I became the music director at the church, so I didn't go. And then I felt convicted. I was like, this is my family. Man, I should at least go help them with the music.
Right.
So I went and started helping them with the music. Not even 2 months that I was there, my mom came up to me in that prophetic voice and said, God told me. You know, they start doing all of that. It's like, God told me you're supposed to do something with the youth.
What?
I said, you have 7 people in your church. If I take the youth, you'll have 3 people in your church. Like, why would, like, that doesn't even make sense. And she just said it again, like, you're supposed to do something with the youth. Probably, I say 3 weeks later, I started in a circle with 7 young people, and God told me 4 things, Sam. He said, be real, don't judge them, love them first, and tell on yourself. Those were the only instructions. I had never sermon prepped, Bible studied, anything. But those were the 4 instructions before I walked in that room. And the young people that were there, 4 of them were my brothers. And then the other 3 were my god brothers and god sisters. And we started a young adult youth ministry called So Fly. And literally within 6 months, there was 15 people in the church, 150 young people coming on Sunday nights. And I was like, this is crazy. What? But we had nothing but a circle. Like we had at my parents' church on Sunday nights, 15 adults. And you know, most youth ministries are built because the parents go there. This is a better, 15 adults, 150 young people. And they were coming. We had no sound system. We had no game room. We had nothing. They were sitting in a circle listening to me talk about Jesus for 2 hours. I was like, this is sad because me and my wife are about to move to New York or LA to further my music career. I had no concept that God was starting something. 6 more months, 250 young people, 20 people in the church. And so like this is happening all at this same time. And I'm the music director here, so I started coming to staff meetings at Greenwood Christian Center. And I looked one day in a staff meeting, I was like, man, my parents need some structure. They're 50-something years old, trying to do these evangelistic Sunday nights. They need some structure. And then I looked at Pastor Gary, and I said, man, he needs some solid leaders that just will hold up the vision. And I just felt like the Spirit said, connect them. Like, say it. They came here 30 years ago together to build another man's ministry. They could get together. And so I said it, and both of them were like, nah, we love each other. That's not going to work. And so I said, okay. 2 months later, Holy Spirit said, say it again. At that time, they were more interested and open, and we had a meeting, and they submitted it to their oversight. The late Miles Monroe was my parents' oversight, and then Pastor Larry Stockstill from Baton Rouge was Pastor Gary's, and they came together in a campaign called Better Together and merged the churches. And literally, when they merged the churches, I subsequently became the youth pastor here. And the first night we did So Fly here, 500 young people showed up. And so that was when it was like, okay, what is really going on?
Wow.
And it just kind of kept going like that. And for the next 2.5 years, with no budget, because the church had just come through a financial issue, I had to build that leadership team, that youth ministry, and I learned everything. We taught those kids how to give. We were able to hire staff member off of that. By the time we ended SoFly, they were giving over $8,000 a month. And you know, the youth and young adults, 8G, no manipulation. And because God, he told me we'd have to represent to them. And so that's where the vision really started. And God was doing things, and kids were getting radically saved, and all these different things. And so I built a leadership team and all that other stuff. And so I just thought I was out here doing the best with what I was given. And the pastor came to me one day and was like, Mike, I really feel like we need to merge these cultures, because we have a more older gospel culture on Sunday morning, and then we have this vibrant, youthful thing happen on Sunday nights. He's like, we need to bring them together. And I said, I'm here to serve. How do you want to do that? He said, you're going to need some authority to do that. So I'm going to make you the executive pastor of the church. And I said, okay. What does that mean?
You're gonna need some authority.
Yeah. I said, what does that mean? He said, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out together. He made me the executive pastor of the church, and I started implementing things like sermon series and different things that we just weren't doing, because it was just like church, and there's like, you just do church, and stuff started happening with that, and I got frustrated in a season. I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm trying to get to the meat of it. No, I got frustrated in a season because there was no more vision and coming, and I was like, man, I don't know. I think maybe God's trying to move me out of this position. Maybe it's time to go back to music.
Right.
I went to the pastor about it. I went to the pastor about it, and he said, no, I think the real problem is we don't have the vision for the next, you do. I said, oh, snap. No. No. I think he misinterpreted what I was saying. And I literally said, I remember word for word, I said, I don't even like people that much. Like, I couldn't be the pastor of this church. And what ended up happening is we started talking, and he said, Michael, you've built a leadership team, you've grown this ministry, you've taught the hardest group of young people how to give, you've done this, that, and started chronicling for me what the past 3.5 years had looked like in ministry. And he was like, we think that you have the next, but don't worry, it'll be 5 years. And this was in 2014. So 2014, September, he gets up in church, Bishop Gary, and says, this time next year, Pastor Mike's going to be your lead pastor. Boy, I was on the front row, September 2014. I squeezed my wife's leg so hard sitting on the front row. And I had been in...
recently had the meeting.
But this is the thing. I'd been in training because a little bit before that bishop had a heart attack. And when he went down for about 8 months, I was the only one that could do everything that he was doing. So I was doing, somebody asked me, have you gone to seminary? I said, yeah. I said, for 8 months, I did 4 different messages every week to 4 different groups of people. And I had to study. I had a more traditional gospel group on Sunday morning, unchurched youth on Sunday night. Wednesday night, I had the people who wanted to go deep in the word. And then Saturday, we had an internship that I had to teach twice every week. And it was the hardest.
You grew up in seminary.
Yeah, like this, yeah. But that really, when people ask me, like, how do you preach like that? Like, that was where God trained me at. And so that September, he announced that. And I was the pastor February, like September 2014, February 1st, I was the pastor. The third day of the 21 days of prayer and fasting, God spoke to him very clearly that it was time to transition to church. And he's like, it's time, and it needs to happen now. And we did the whole thing. And all I can tell you, Sam, is, man, there's been a supernatural grace that has come over my life since I stepped into this role to represent God. And me and my wife, Natalie, have been able to see God do some amazing, tremendous things as we've taken on this journey, and we're empowered by him to do it every day. So that is the very, that's the abridged, the so abridged version. It's so abridged that I'm sweating, y'all. I was trying to, I don't know.